those people that we just showed in the U.S. Capitol, how do you begin to deprogram them?
So that's what I do for a living, and family members contact me, and I've written books, I've done videotapes, I've done courses to educate the family, because it's the family, friends, and former members that once we educate them, we coach them on how to interact and empower the person to start thinking for themselves. The most powerful technique is asking a respectful, thoughtful question and being quiet and really waiting a long time for an answer and then following up.
Here are your tips how to help free someone from the cult of Trump. You say, always act with respect, kindness, and warmth. Avoid conflict or harshness. Keep the dialogue open and civil. Be collaborative rather than competitive. Don't get angry. Don't tell them. Help them make their own discoveries. That all makes sense, but it sounds like you're saying it has to be done one at a time. There are millions of people who believe that the election was rigged.
Yeah, no, we're going to need a top-down approach in terms of, I mean, if Congress would like me to come and testify and people can grill me, Republicans and Democrats can ask me, I can bring my colleagues along. But the bottom line is people who have love and respect for the actual members, they're the ones who will have the power to de-radicalize and help them recover, because we're going to have a huge need for recovery.
Stephen Hassan, the book again is The Cult of Trump. Thank you for
that he's trying to prevent against, right?
No, but can I answer that for a second?
Yeah.
I just wanted to say to Sonny, don't you think that if he pardons himself, Sonny, that admits that he's guilty, and then when the impeachment in the Senate comes up, what are they supposed to do with that? They have to convict him. He himself is saying, I'm guilty.
Absolutely, absolutely. But his defense, I think, is going to be, well, this is a witch hunt. This is a witch hunt against me. So, of course, I have to try to, pardon myself, because everyone's out against me. And guess what? 74 million people are going to believe that because they've been brainwashed, Joy. I really believe that they have been brainwashed by this misinformation campaign over the past 4 years.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And as much as I'm worried about these loons who break into government, I'm actually more worried about the loons who did get elected. Because, I mean, what do you do about these people? There's 147 Republicans in Congress who still don't concede that Trump lost the election. What do you do about people who are in the government who don't believe in our way of government?
It is so shocking. Not only are they not conceding, Bill, but there's thoughts that there might have been some collusion among members of Congress. Some are refusing to go through magnometers or whatever you call them to check for weapons. They're not wearing masks during the siege. I mean, it's really bizarre, isn't it, when you think about how AWOL so many of these members of Congress have gotten. But I also think some of them are believing the garbage that they are being fed 24/7 on the internet by their constituents, and they bought into this big lie. And the question is, how are we going to really almost deprogram these people who have signed up for the cult of Trump?
So as his vice chair on the Oversight Subcommittee for Civil Rights, we have held many hearings on the growing white supremacist threat and the domestic terror threat in the United States. Over the last 2 years, we've been holding hearings about this. Some of you have already seen some of the clips where we talked about how the FBI investigates white supremacist terror and crimes of white supremacist terror. And in one of those hearings, we had an expert witness testify who used to be a part of a neo-Nazi organization. And he found his way out. And he testified about some of the de-radicalization techniques that are used. In fact, we had a program addressing white supremacists federal programs that went towards funding organizations like these that de-radicalized people. And President Trump pulled the plug on federal funding for some of these programs. And so One thing that we know is that we have to get that funding right back up, and we probably need to double, triple, quadruple, or increase funding for these de-radicalization programs en masse. But, you know, beyond that, there are tools that you can use.
Millions of Americans, almost all white, almost all Republicans, who somehow need to be deprogrammed. It's as if they are members of a cult, the Trumpist cult, and who have to be deprogrammed. Do you have any idea how we start that process, much less complete it?
Yeah, I don't. I'm a journalist. I certainly don't know how we can stop people. I know we can look to history, though. What ultimately breaks that power structure in the South is enforcement, right? There has to be consequences. And then once you get those consequences, I think then people have to take a second look at their actions, and they have to be much more afraid to do the types of kind of violence that we saw this week, last week, the violence that we've seen building, you know, with what happened in Michigan, the violence that's being threatening now. What has long been the case in this country is that we have wanted to quickly move on to reconciliation when it comes to this sort of divide. We've always been afraid that if you actually punish those kind of white nationalist element in our society, it will only make things worse. But in fact, what history shows is not reacting, not forcing accountability, only emboldens those people and those movements. So I think there has to be some real accountability. There has to be some enforcement of the laws. And then after that, I think is when you can start trying to build reconciliation. But I think what is clearly the case is not doing anything is only emboldening this to expand.
Even when Biden wins, you go through all the Republican voters and Homeland Security will take the children. Okay? And we'll put them into re-education camps.
Amen.
In these times, which are unique, we need it's close to him.
What are we going to do if we don't like you?
Go to the White House and throw Molotov cocktails. These kids who are growing up knowing nothing but Trump, for 4 years, you got to wonder what they're going to be like. Are we raising a generation of intolerant, horrible people, horrible kids? Enlightenment camps.
Right.
They're nice. They have Sesame Street characters in the classroom, and they watch PBS all day.
Go home and watch it.
Dumb. Most people are dumb. It's good to live in a place where people are, educated and know stuff. And can you imagine if you lived in one of these other towns or states where everybody's just stupid? What's great is that COVID is spiking in all the red states right now. So that's great.
Why do you think so?
Because either those people that are coming out to vote for Trump, like the red states, or a lot of them are sick and dying. PBS has real news. But CNN doesn't have real news anymore. It's just a talking head talking about Trump all day long. I can't stand it. I mean, every once in a while I look at Fox News and it makes me want to throw up after 5 minutes. It's all this Joe Biden shit now, all that Joe Biden, scandal, which is all made up. It's all ridiculous. And they are pushing it so hard. It's unbelievable.
So do you guys just ignore it?
Yeah.